Alright guys, it's time to look at the weather pattern for early and mid-October, and to do this we'll be looking at temperature trends and precipitation trends. We'll be looking at the EPS model, starting off with the 500 millibar height anomalies, showing where we have upper level ridges and troughs. The ridges will be in the orange and red color, and the troughs are in the blue and purple color. So starting off today on October 2nd, we have pretty expansive ridging across the central and western US, and pretty strong trough in there up in Canada. Now, over the next few days, you'll notice that we'll get a lot of ridges and troughs to move quickly west to east across the U.S. Starting off this weekend, we have a ridge a lot across the Midwest, quickly move into the east, gets replaced by a shortwave trough going into Sunday, Monday, and then that quickly gets replaced by another ridge that comes out from the west, and that trough moves to the northeast and the east coast early next week. But that means that we'll have a lot of roller coaster type temperatures, quickly moving up and down type temperatures every few days, above average a couple days, back to below average a couple days, behind the cold fronts. So the northern U.S. over the next few days will have a lot of these roller coaster type temperatures. Until we get to around October 7th, 8th, and 9th, that's when the EPS model starts to show a pretty large and expansive upper level ridge develops across the Midwest and into Canada. And watch how strong this gets by October 10th, predicting a very, very large upper level ridge across the upper Midwest into Canada by October 10th. And whenever you have a ridge develop like that, you tend to get a downstream trough, and that's exactly what we see here along the East Coast. Some trough in here along the East Coast by October 10th, which would bring some below normal temperatures, definitely seasonable temperatures to below normal temperatures. But under this large expansive ridge, it would be widespread above normal temperatures and also very little rain chances, or in some cases in Canada by this time of year, any snow chances. So basically, a very warm and dry weather pattern possible under this upper level ridge going into the October 10th time frame and even beyond that. Because once we get to around the 13th to the 15th, the EPS is showing that this ridge even expands quite drastically westward. So anywhere from the northern U.S., from the Midwest to the Pacific Northwest and into Canada, we could be talking about widespread above normal temperatures for mid-October, and also very little precipitation chances to go along with that. Now, like I said, you get the downstream trough that develops off to its east. So we do actually have a trough expected for much of the East Coast for the middle of the month. That would mean, like I said, widespread seasonable to even below normal temperatures for the middle of the month here across much of the East. And then just going beyond to around October 15th, the EPS is actually showing that this trough expands quite drastically along the East Coast and even gets stronger. So, like I said, a very strong signal for even below normal temperatures here along the East Coast come mid-October, and also a very strong signal for widespread above normal temperatures for the middle and western portions of the U.S., and even for the middle and western portions of Canada come middle of the month. And with that, very dry weather pattern along with that also. And then the end of this model cycle goes out to the 16th and 17th, still showing the same thing, ridge out to the west and trough out to the east. Now I want to compare this to the other two major models, looking at the GEFS and the CMC. This is looking at October 15th. Here's the GEFS showing the same thing, large ridge out to the west and a trough to the east. And here's the CMCE showing the exact same thing, ridge out to the west and trough out to the east. So very good agreement that we'll have widespread above normal temperatures for basically the western half of the U.S. and seasonable to below normal temperatures for the East Coast. And with that being said, that would also mean very little rain chances or precipitation chances for much of the middle of the country for basically almost the entire first half of October and possibly beyond, because the ridging might even continue going beyond mid-October, and some models do actually show it expanding eastward as we get to the end of the month. And so next I want to look at temperature anomalies, starting off with today on October 2nd. We have widespread well above normal temperatures anywhere from the Great Plains over towards the Southwest and California, where we actually had where Phoenix actually broke its all-time October record high temperature with 113 degrees yesterday, or about 45 degrees Celsius. Um, and then we also have below normal temperatures there across the Canadian prairies. But anyway, going out in time, as we get that progressive weather pattern, like I said, with the ridges and troughs moving quickly eastward over the next few days, notice we have periods of above normal temperatures followed by below normal temperatures. But once we get to around October 8th, 9th, and 10th, notice how we have widespread above normal temperatures across the middle of the country into the west and into central Canada, with below normal temperatures predicted here across much of the East Coast and into the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. And then just going out beyond this, going all the way to the 15th, the 10th, basically the 10th to the 15th of October, is just showing widespread above normal temperatures and even well above normal temperatures across the Midwest and into the Rockies and into southern Canada, with average to slightly below normal temperatures there across much of the East Coast. And this continues all the way out to around October 15th under that very large and expansive upper level ridge. Continued above normal temperatures, like I've been saying, for much of the western half of the U.S. and Canada, and average to slightly below average temperatures across the East Coast. Now, this is meaning a lot of widespread temperatures in the 70s for mid-October, for the Midwest region, the Great Plains, and into the Rockies. And for the portions of the Northeast and Great Lakes, average to below average temperatures in mid-October would mean temperatures more like in the 50s and 60s. And for the Southeast, that would mean temperatures in the 70s. But anything above normal in Texas area, that would be still temperatures in the 80s and 90s for mid-October. And then once again, comparing this with the two other major models, this is looking at October 15th. The GEFS is showing the same thing, above normal temperatures for basically the middle and western portions of the U.S. and into central Canada, with more below average temperatures across the East Coast. That's the bluish color. And the CMCE showing basically the same thing, above normal temperatures for the middle to the western half of the U.S. and average to slightly below average temperatures for the East Coast. And so lastly, I want to show you the precipitation amounts through mid-October. This is going through around October 16th. And the first thing you notice is how extremely dry the majority of the country is. I mean, we're talking not even a half inch of precipitation predicted through mid-October for the majority of the country and into the Canadian prairies. The only areas really getting decent amounts of rain through mid-October would be Florida, portions of the Northeast, and downwind of the Great Lakes, and perhaps the Northern Cascades. Anyone outside of that should be looking at barely any reasonable amounts of rain or precipitation over the next 2 weeks. And now this could change for the East Coast, especially if we get some sort of tropical system over the next 2 weeks that makes a landfall. Could easily bring more rainfall than expected there. But one area more certain to get a lot of rain would be Florida. We have a tropical system, whether it's a named storm or not, it's going to be bringing a lot of rain this weekend. The first weekend of October into much of the Florida Peninsula, we could be talking about some flooding issues there. But the good news is that after Hurricane Helene, so far not a whole lot of rain predicted for much of the southern Appalachians. And for the Great Lakes region, I do see a little bit of a lake effect component in this forecast. So it's telling me that with that trough through the middle of the month, with those behind those strong cold fronts, we could be talking about some lake effect rain behind those strong cold fronts in mid-October. And like I said, we could be getting some pretty strong fronts into the northern Cascades there, bringing some heavy rains to portions of Washington. But outside of that, extremely dry across the Southwest, the Great Plains, the Rockies, the Midwest, the Southern Plains, Tennessee Valley. And much of this area is actually in drought conditions right now across the middle of the country. This would only make conditions worse. And comparing it with the GEFS, showing the exact same thing, basically the rain where I expect it to be across the Northeast Florida and the Northern Northern Cascades, I should say, and the CMCE, also showing the exact same thing. The majority of the rain of the Northern Cascades, Florida, portions of the Northeast, and downwind of the Great Lakes. So all three major models are all in good agreement about the placement of rain and the placement of the lack of rain across the majority of the country. So in summary, I expect the western half of the U.S. to be very warm and dry over the next 2 weeks. Outside of the northern Cascades, where we could be getting some pretty strong fronts that come through bringing rainfall, I expect Florida and the southeast coast to be very wet, and also perhaps below average in terms of temperature come mid-month. I expect the Northeast also to be quite wet, or about average in terms of rainfall, and also temperatures will be starting to trend below average through the middle of the month, which includes much of the East Coast. And for the Midwest, I expect it to be pretty substantially above normal in terms of temperature over the next 2 weeks, and also very dry over the next 2 weeks. Now, we could still get frost come mid-month, because when you have very clear skies under that ridge, sure, the daytimes will be very warm, but we could still get some night times that get very cold across the upper Midwest and into the Canadian prairies. But in terms of first snowfall, because the Canadian prairie starts to get their first snow around this time of year, and with the way it's looking, I would expect the first snow to be later than what you would expect across the southern portions of Canada, and even for places like Montana and Wyoming. With the way this weather pattern is looking, I would expect the first snow to be later than usual, or later than average. And with that being said, that's all I have, and I hope you all have a good one, guys. I'll see you next time.